So what is your vision with the lifeboats?
Well, when you enter my storage here, and my dream, and it was a real dream, in 2008, a whole series of caravans traveling for European Capital of Culture. And they are five-faceted female portraits of women being built on top or around old caravans. And it was extremely difficult to get permission to travel legally with them on the roads. But in the process of doing that, we managed to find someone who said if it's possible to change them from being caravans to non-registrable towing vehicles, like agricultural equipment, travel on the roads, strange ones. But in that process, I had a dream that I saw these caravans sailing on water. And everything seemed so easy and smooth. No problem with traffic authorities or anything like that. And then woke up and told Klaus about the dream. And he said, but Benthe, don't you know it's possible to create boats out of concrete? And I didn't know, even though I've seen myself as a concrete and metal worker since I was about 20. And looked at the internet at the process and saw that it's very close to what I've been doing in my processes, like Woman of the Sea that you've been to see. The armature and chicken wire and layers of concrete. So I got in touch with a ferrocement boat builder. And my ideas came very quickly because camping women, they are 5 figures built on 5 different archetypes of female figures. You can enter them, and inside the woman you find the adventure or the painful or wonderful experiences. And everyone's been inside of a woman. We're born out of a woman. She is nurtured and given life, and I think that very, very simple aspect is magical and the basis of life. I thought I'll make something that is so simple in its imagery that everyone can relate. So that it will be a life cycle, not about something that you need to have knowledge about in any theoretical way, something that everyone has an experience of. So I started off by lying her on the on the side with the hip as the cabin. And this is my ship is loaded with longing, the young one, offering her breast to the world, not knowing what the body is capable of. Inside is a treasure chest that is collecting letters of hope, dreams and longings. And that's, it's a very simple one here in the model in 1 to 5, but in the real one it's a very beautiful treasure chest that will never be opened. Right. It will just mix with other people's dreams and longings. And then it's my ship is loaded with life. It's based on a Norwegian and Danish children's game where you say my ship is loaded with something beginning with and then you've got a letter and you play. So this is my ship is loaded with life. She's pregnant, she's just lying on her back. And stomach is the cabin. Inside of her, in the real one, there's self-portraits, symbolic self-portraits drawn directly on the walls by young people. And she's, of course, protecting inwards and outwards.
Okay, so that's the symbolic nature of the 2 faces, of the almost two heads. I also, when looking at it from the other side, on the real boat, which I've seen, it almost feels as if this is a woman that is also supporting the woman that is pregnant. So I saw it as one, but also more than one, and a woman supporting another woman, and supporting each other. Maybe it's just my own experiences,
but that's what is wonderful.
How I see it.
But this is how we want it as artists, that things can be seen in different ways. Because I'm often, in a way, working with double portraits that, you know, you're never just one person.
Right.
Whether it's several persons or emotions or states of being in one person, or whether it's separate ones supporting each other.
Right.
I think it's part of the same thought and experience. I think that's beautiful that you can see it in both ways. And then my ship is loaded with memories. What she is about is she's lying on her belly, her back is the cabin. She's carrying here 19 figures on her back. And what they have in common is that they all have traveled to other countries or related to other countries in their own. And they come from different cultures, and they're more than 70 years of age at the time when we have done the interview and the symbolic portraits. So it's the old giving the experiences further, and they represent more than 27 different nations. Most of them have been somehow experiencing war, but they have survived more than 8 different wars altogether. No, on the opposite sides of the same wars. And they have all spent time thinking about being in the same boat, but deciding to actually be in the same boat or on the same figurehead to give further generations hope.
And they all agreed to interview, have their stories told, and be represented on the boat.
Yeah.
So there, it's all by their permission.
Yeah. And this is because I've been working with researchers. And Dr. Christensen, who was the sociology professor from Aalborg University, she made a very beautiful book where all the interviews are in her methodology, have been told, and she has the factual interest and material as her research material.
Right.
And then I've been working with them as symbols and direct interpretations as an artist after she's been interviewing them. And that book reviewed in Oxford University Press, where they said that anyone who is dealing with migration should be reading this book. And that is, very, I think that's a fantastic ripple effect from that dream.
Right. An affirmation of what your dream, right? Exactly.
The dream works, the symbolic portraits of each of them, and we have photos of each of the women, and most of them have also been interviewed on film. And I could tell you, the stories of all of them. But and I think it's very important stories to be told today.
Right.
The dream was in 2008, and it took me 8 years to be able to create the boats together with maybe 500 people at the end. But it took 8 years to be able to produce them, and now, when I started it, I found it just as a very human way of collaborating. And of course, we want to to be coexisting as a family. And as I said here, the whole project is about what we have in common. There's so much more we have in common than what differs. If you look at the biological circle and how important it is that the circle of life is continuing in the nature, in the human, in all ways. For instance, you look at this woman here. She is a Vietnamese woman who sent 11 of her 13 children out as refugees in where all of them survived. They were both refugees coming to different parts of the world. And we met the youngest one, who was 12 when he was sent off on a boat by himself, not with the rest of the family. But a Danish ship brought him back to Denmark, and his daughter is studying to be a doctor. And it was very powerful to hear his story and his mother's story. She didn't speak Danish, but he was able to translate for her. So here, of course, is the symbol of the boat and of all these children. So it's very direct and easy symbolism.
Right. And did he meet his siblings?
Yeah. I saw pictures of all of them. Okay. Now, I can't remember where, but I think some of them were also situated in the US, but they live in different parts of the world now, and they're thriving.
That's great.
But there's so many stories here that I could tell. But for instance, I think the basic starting point of life was my mother. When my mother was born, her mother died in childbirth. So she grew up without a mother, and when we grew up, she told us a lot about her mother and how much she missed having a mother, even though she had a great father. He never remarried. He was a mother and father for her. He also really wanted to have a grandmother, for us. So it's been really important for her to be a mother and a grandmother.
Right.
And her mother was in the Norwegian tradition, there's been some very beautiful decorations of furnitures. And my grandmother died only at 28. But but I feel I know her because I know all her, or not all her, but some of her beautiful, they call it rose painting, where you decorate the furnitures, and we were surrounded by some of those. So my mother didn't know her, but she knew of her.
Right.
So she felt she also had her with her. So I decided to bring that family tree into this whole life cycle, because it's the three of us. We have 3 daughters. We rest under her protective breasts that have been nourishing us with all our children. And then I also have, my mother is a painter. She is a symbolic painter. So I'm bringing some of her shapes into it, mixed in with some of her mother's rose paintings, just to say that they're all here.
Wow.
From the generation, because part of my grandmother is just in this. This is my mother's. She's working with a lot of symbols of fertility. So the egg is a very important part, for instance. And the females, yes. So there's a lot of symbolism in these figures that I can tell if I'm asked to. But I hope people will also feel it when they see it. And there's this book where I also explain some of my symbolism. But in addition to this, my mother and father, my father was an engineer and worked and also an adventurer. So he worked in Iran, where I was conceived. I lived for the first 2 years of my life, and in India, where I was living for 3 years. Then they moved on and lived in Africa, where we, visited them in their periods there. But all through my childhood, my mother was singing to us a Norwegian song that is very much about everything might be different on the outside, but on the inside we're all the same. And I think this is so much the whole, what you call, starting point for the Lifeboats project.